disregard God's commandment but cling to human tradition. He summoned the crowd again and said to them, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. Nothing that enters one from outside can defile that person, but the things that come out from within are what defile. From within people, from their hearts, come evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly. All these evils come from within, and they defile." The gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. In today's gospel, our Lord isn't saying it's bad to wash your hands. I mean, that's a good thing, especially before you eat. But what he's striving, the point that he's driving home to the scribes and Pharisees is that it's more important that you have a clean heart than that you have clean hands. Because all good that we choose to do comes from the heart, but also all the evil comes from the inside and then works its way outside. And so that's why our Lord says, all these evils like evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, folly, all that comes from within. It starts there because we struggle with sin. And so it's more important that we focus on, he wants the scribes and Pharisees to see that, those rules and regulations of purification are good. They're not a bad thing, but they're not as important as having a clean heart. That's why throughout the Old Testament, our Lord says, I don't need sacrifices. I don't need your sheep or your bull that's offered up. I need your heart. Because what was happening was Israel was oftentimes, doing whatever they wanted, sinning, living a life of sin, but then they would take their sheep, they would go and fulfill what needed to be done at the temple. They'd take their sheep and go get it slaughtered. All right, I offered my sacrifice, now I can go back to my life of sin. And we can kind of do that too, where we check mark off our spiritual lives. Okay, I went to Mass on Sunday, good. I'm now a good Catholic because I did that. I'm going to go say these prayers and then God will do this. So sometimes we just live our life in this little box. And God just wants your heart. And if he doesn't have your heart, he doesn't really have you. That's why, wherever you spend the most time, wherever you, granted, a lot of our time is spent doing things we don't necessarily want to do, like working and things like that. But where do you find your rest? Where do you find your joy? Because that's where your heart is being placed. And so it's just the same with the relationships with other people. If, we're spending all our time putting our heart into our work, then we're not going to be giving our hearts to our family and our loved ones in the same way that we need to. If we can't give our hearts to God, then that's going to affect our relationship, and we're just going to see the exterior of our relationship with God. We're not going to see the interior relationship that he's calling us to. If we come here to Mass and all we see is the exterior, all we're going to see is we're going to see music, which is great, the beautiful church, which helps us focus. But if we don't see the beauty of our Lord in the Eucharist, if we don't see him in the Eucharist, then we're not going to get as much out of Mass as we had wanted, as we want to deep in our hearts. And if we're not able to give our hearts to the Lord, it's going to be harder for us to give our hearts to others as well. So something that I was thinking about was just how often we say things and do things without thinking, how does it affect the heart of the other person? Because we can't really read hearts. Only God can do that. But a lot of times we say things and we do things without thinking about what are the consequences that those words and actions, what do they have in the hearts of the people around us? We might think that that has no effect, but it definitely does, especially if it's something negative, something very unkind, uncharitable. That can really tear someone up inside, and we'd have no idea the damage that has been done. And so we first need to bring our hearts to our Lord, and honestly, like in our prayer, just ask him to help lead us, to purify us, to heal us, to clean our hearts from the inside out. And then from there, go and ask him to help the relationships around us, to help always use our words and actions to help build up those around us. So let's ask our Lord today to help us experience him in a deeper way in the Eucharist this week, especially today as we receive him. And as we receive him, to ask him to be that nourishment, to be that strength, to be that healing and cleansing that we need for our hearts, that our hearts may truly be his, that we may not give our hearts to anything else, to anyone else, but to have our hearts entrusted to our Lord. So let's ask for his strength, for our hearts are restless until they rest in him. So let us give us our whole heart, mind, and soul to the Lord.